We have the Mayor of Cumberland with us now, and we use him as our tour guide on occasion too. But welcome, Mr. Mayor.
Good morning, Bill. How are you today?
I am well. And every time we've talked to you, you've had some special vantage point to tell us where you're sitting atop a mountain here and a big hill there, overlooking your prized possession, Cumberland County. Where are you today?
No, this morning I'm in on the Eddy Road at the Fundy Winds Marsh again, one of my favorite spots in Cumberland County to watch the world go by. And I want to comment on your weather forecast and reporting a little bit. The windmills in Fort Lawrence are barely turning, so I assume your 5 kilometers per hour is about correct. And I'm looking forward to holding your promise on next week's weather. We'll be, if that holds and your promise turns out to be perfect and bang on, we will have our first eat of maple syrup and so on in the middle part of next week, I would say.
And I was just going to ask, what do I get as a reward if we are correct? And you've already answered the question, maple syrup. It's a little early, isn't it?
No, actually, I was talking to a couple of the operators this past week, discussing how cold the weather's been and the amount of snow down and some potential issues with them. And they said that we're about 2 weeks behind from last year, that we'd already had a good run 2 weeks previous to this date last year. So, but they're looking forward to next week too. So. A few nice days, we'll soon get the show on the road. So.
I guess it's a reflection of the kind of winter we've had, where it's been cold and colder and coldest. And I'm in a brain freeze, and I can't remember the normal schedule for maple syrup running in the trees. Speaking of which,
it's been a cold winter, so.
Speaking of which, though, it was a hot session, you might say, at council yesterday. You had a whole bunch of public hearings, and those are usually kind of a quiet, laid-back thing where somebody wants to change a zoning or a bylaw, not a bylaw, but a zoning application change or something so they can build a building or expand a building, and, they quietly go by. But yesterday you pitted one street. I'm thinking of a business that wants to relocate roughly on King Street and Lisgar Street in Spring Hill. And it seemed that everybody on one street signed a petition to say no, and everybody on the other street signed a petition to say yes. And one wondered, what's going on that one?
Well, it's interesting, like all of the ones yesterday. We had a pretty well full house in Chambers yesterday, which is, is really good. I like the fact that people are engaged, and the public hearing process is exactly that, a chance for the people to speak. And they've done a very good job of being aware and being out front and speaking and whatever. And afterwards, a couple of council members said to me, "Wow, phew." And I said, "Yeah, but you know what? I love the level of engagement, not only with council but with the members of the public and the people and the proponents and people that are trying to do projects around the county. It's a great part of the process, quite frankly."
Oh, no question. And, exercised very effectively those for and those against. Now, I'm curious, because they had their say, and you go through the public hearing process, and you do 2 readings of the bill, if you want to call it that. You announce it, discuss it, and read it. Then you come back and do it a second time, and it's at that point that it gets passed or turned down. One wonders then, how effective is a public opposition to a proposal in terms of how does it affect the council's vote? If you get a whole bunch of people opposed to it, even if they have an equal number of people in favor, there's something about the weight of angry voters that has a bearing on decisions. Is that true, or is that fair?
Oh, absolutely. Again, we've had a number of these lately, and I think there's a couple more coming up for votes next week and so on. And, council has been very engaged in getting out to the sites and looking things over and being aware and trying to gather all the facts and information from every corner of these things before. These things weigh heavily on the councillors' minds. It affects people, it affects livelihoods, it affects neighborhoods, it does a lot of things. And we take it very seriously, and we put a lot of work into making sure that we try and get the right decisions made. It's an interesting process, and again, public sentiment always plays a factor in the situation. for sure. Like if the people came out 100% and said, hey, none of us want this in our neighborhood, well, you know what? Council, in most cases, would defer to that. It's not our job to push things on the people that, they don't want. But it also is our job to listen to all the facts, take an active interest in the whole application, and make an informed decision that's in the best interest of all the taxpayers. So.
Now, having said that, there was one issue talked about again yesterday. You've been talking about this for a while, and that's the suggestion that you might open the possibility to using some what are described as undersized lots. That would be lots of land that maybe have no building on it of any kind, or perhaps a small building that people would like to make bigger, but under current rules cannot. And the discussion has centered on being very, very selective, if that's the right word, in terms of what you can do on undersized lots that are on, say, on a river, a lake, or on the coastal property, and other ones as well. And it seems that there are two sides here. The people that have the undersized lots, or that want to be able to buy one maybe someday, they're all in favor. And then you've got the other folks who have no intention and nowhere near, but they're supportive of the environment, and especially the coastal environment, and they're just violently opposed. But I got a sense in talking to some people, and again listening yesterday to the presentation, you're not talking about a holus bolus thing here that says the old lot that was too small, we're going to make it big enough, you're good to go. You're looking at some very fine detail about not just, say, the distance from the water, but the elevation on that distance from the water. If you've got to go up a bank to get to the property, that changes the dynamics. And you're being very, very picky, and your staff is going to have a whale of a job, a heck of a job, to try and deal with these if indeed you do approve the possibility. So it's not about every single small lot is going to be approved. It's about looking at the very vivid, very detailed presentation of the lie of the land, not just the measurement of the land. And I know that that's something dear to your heart as well.
Absolutely. The reality of this whole thing is, and it's very clear in the discussions that we've had, is that we're not going to let anybody build anything onto an existing property and go any closer to the water than they currently are, unless they're further away than the 30.5 meter setback from the top of the bank type of thing. So if you're more than that now, and you want to add a little bit on the front of your cottage, for example, maybe one more bedroom or whatever, that potentially can happen, as long as you're not less than 30.5 meters. Anybody that's currently there, anybody that's under the 30.5 meter mark, will not be allowed to build 1 inch closer to a waterway or a lake, a river, the ocean, whatever. What we're trying to do here, and there's not a lot of vacant, undersized lots in the RREC zone, because it's the RREC zone that this applies to. It's not a blanket thing at this point. It's just in the RREC zone, which is cottage country.
If I may,
on both sides of the thing, so.
if I may just jump in, you guys in your jargon, the RREC zone would be residential recreational zone.
Yes, exactly. So, and then what we found over the last number of years is that the planning staff have been saying no to a large number of residents that own cottages and stuff in the RREC zone, because, like, if you have a 50 by 100 lot in Northport, and the current rules say that the maximum lot coverage for that lot, whether it's waterfront or non-waterfront, makes no difference, is 500 square feet, including any ancillary buildings, which is sheds, garages, that type of thing. And you know what? Most other municipalities right across the country, their lot coverages range anywhere from 28 to 45%, depending on the density that you want to try to achieve. So our thought was, you know what? We're really impacting a lot of people that want to just do a small project, like add a bathroom on, or add a bedroom on, or maybe make their cottage, 6 or 8 feet longer, to accommodate, more family and whatever. We're really, impacting those people with that 10% rule, whereas the 25% rule will open up a lot of opportunities for these folks. Also, it will increase assessments. It'll increase all kinds of things in the county. It will make it easier for the planning staff, quite frankly. There will be not as much of this no anymore on those things. So, but, the second part of that is we are recognizing the waterfront stuff, recognizing the setbacks, and holding the line on those right across the county. There's no change there. We're not going to allow people to get closer to the water, build closer to the water, or add on closer to the water than what they currently are.
And at the same time, we have a housing crisis. So is this driving any of this effort to use some lots that otherwise might not get used?
Potentially, yes. There's a number of things going on here. What you find, and I say to people, if you did a 5-year survey of any cottage lane along the shore, it doesn't matter which coast you want to be on, which end of the county, and said, okay, if you drove in there year one and said there's 11 people here that live year round, and then you drove in year two, there's 13, and by the time you get to year 5, it's 30. And this is what we're seeing happening in cottage country is more and more people are choosing to live year round, at the shore, so to speak. And people from away, the same thing. They'll sell a house, in BC or whatever. They'll come here and they'll take their family cottage and renovate it, spend a bunch of money on it, winterize it, and then live there year round. So that part of it, is good for everyone, good for the economy, good for housing. It takes some pressure off. It just ticks a lot of boxes getting this change made.
Now, on another matter, kind of the opposite end of that, you're talking there about building and renovating and fixing up. On the other side of the coin, you've got properties that are eyesores, properties that perhaps are dangerous and unsightly. And we've had a real campaign over almost the last 10 years right across the county to try and deal with these places. And of course, that ends up with an action of demand for the property owner to clean it up, fix it up, or you will. I say you, meaning the municipal government. And there was a presentation yesterday about the possibility of dealing with what we sometimes call the repeat offenders. That would be somebody who's got one or more properties that are considered unsightly, and they might scrape through on one inspection 1 year, but they don't do anything to the property, and lo and behold, you're back looking at the same property again, or a neighboring property with the same owner. I get the impression that a lot of people would like to be able to tag those repeat offenders and allow you to give them like a speeding ticket, a fine. And it looks like, or sounded like, you don't have the authority to do that.
No, not currently. It's being worked on now. Colchester County has recently enacted a fine system like that, although it hasn't been tested in court yet. And we're not sure that it'll stand the test to be able to be enforced at the court level at this point. So the other thing we looked at too is, and members of council are very aware of problem properties that have gone on for, we'll put an order on one, we'll get a complaint and go in and put an order on one and get it cleaned up, and then 6 months later, a year later, you go by and it's as bad as it was the first time or worse. And then in the way that it is now, you have to get a complaint filed every time. If we change our bylaw and go to this new plan that the staff are suggesting, they'll be able to follow up on their own for a 12-month period after the initial cleanup. And if there are required cleanups or a reoccurrence of the problem, then staff will be able to take, bylaw enforcement staff will be able to take a hold of the situation and deal with it, waiting another written complaint, starting over again and going through the process. And you know what? We've got to get, we get a lot of complaints around the county for these types of things, and we've tried since 2020 to be more proactive and get after some of the stuff, and we have. But there's a lot of them, and it's a lot of work. And when you have bureaucracy that slows you down, it always makes it more difficult. So if we, were to pass this idea of letting the staff, monitor 12 months out after an incident, I think it'll go a long ways towards correcting the problem.
And just one last subject. Your 16 fire departments are divided into kind of 4 categories and regions, rather, with a hub, 4 hubs that would provide services to the smaller departments. How far have you progressed in terms of equipping those hubs? What's new in the hubs that people might not be aware of?
There's a lot going on in the fire service right now. They just rolled out right across the county the new TMR radios to all the departments recently. Yesterday we had some moment of I won't say fun, but it's always good to meet the members of the fire department. Some members from Wallace were there with their new pumper truck yesterday that they just recently received, and we had a chance to look it over and be shown all of the different things it's capable of doing, whatever. And it was great to see. And the people, the members of the department that brought the tanker to us, we're absolutely thrilled to show us around and very proud of it. So it gives you as a counselor and me as the mayor a heartwarming feeling when you see the fire department's appreciative of the effort we're putting into the fire service in Cumberland County right now, all the way around. I mean, we're going to finish that new station in Spring Hill, and there's just a lot of things going on in the budget process with regards to the fire service, and we've recognized that we have a bunch of apparatus needs in the short term, and so we have to find a path forward to deal with that and try and make it happen. Anyway, so it's exciting times.
Speaking of
the other thing, Joe, yesterday was to bring the council up to speed on the hub model and how the hub model works and who reports to who and how things happen in the fire service, so that they have an understanding of that, and they'll get busy and read all 1,200 or whatever it was pages of the Goodrow report sometime soon, probably right after we get done with the budget. So. Anyway, and then we'll move forward with more recommendations as time goes on.
Now, further to what you said, exciting times, I am really pleased to be able to hear in your voice the excitement in your office that you still hold. Every time we get together like this, I can throw a topic at you out of left field and you just jump and run with it. And you've got a good grasp of what's going on. You really enjoy what you're doing, and it comes through.
Absolutely, and it's been a lot of fun so far. It really has. It's enjoyable work to be able to try and help the people of Cumberland County. Yesterday, again, after council, the councilors were like, whew, this was a heavy and long session. And I went around and I was, patting them all on the back and high-fiving them, and saying, guys, this is exactly why we're here, to have a high level of engagement with the people on all fronts. And I said, I'm so proud of how you handled yourselves yesterday, and the work that you put in, and the interest you're taking in what we're doing. And I said, that's the part that makes me feel really, really good about the path we're on.